Welcome back to the Morning Brew, everybody. We're having a great time today. Amber, this is fun stuff today.
It is.
We're learning lots, as we always do.
I was really inspired by Miss Cecilia.
I was too. You know, you just got to do
When
this
I was 18,
stuff.
I was.
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell you what I was doing, but it
Me
was
neither,
definitely
right?
had nothing to do with my career whatsoever.
Turned out okay, though, didn't it? Hey, it's Theater Thursday here on the Morning Brew, and this portion of our show is brought to you by our friends at the Albuquerque Theater Guild. What do? Well, they kind of keep track of what's on stage all around the community, and it's a great website, so go check it out, abqtheater.org and the Albuquerque Theater Guild. With us today, we're going to talk a little bit about theater and a really interesting show about Einstein, and we have him here, meeting, who is it?
Pablo Picasso.
Picasso.
And they're young, at an early age in their life.
With us today is David Jones, who is original Vortex Theater founder, and also Jeremy Gwin is with us, who plays Einstein in the production. David, I will start with you because I remember a conversation last summer about Shakespeare.
Shakespeare in the Plaza.
I could have done an hour with you on Shakespeare.
We got off onto did Shakespeare write his plays?
Exactly.
We could have done an hour, but
it was fascinating.
But this is about Steve Martin, the banjo-playing comic novelist, playwright, and other things, and a very funny play.
Okay, the play is called,
Picasso at the Le Panagile. The Le Panagile is a bar in Paris. It's set back in 1904 at the beginning of the modernist movement. Picasso hasn't really discovered Cubism yet. Einstein hasn't really discovered relativity yet, but they're both on the cusp of finding out these things. And they get involved in a story in a bar with a whole bunch of other people, and magical things ensue. By the end, they're discovering a lot, and in comes a time traveler who bears a strong resemblance, sorry, to Elvis Presley. So things get very weird at the end of the play.
I see where we're going.
But it's full of ideas and it's full of laughs, and that's kind of Steve Martin all over. He's clearly a low comedian who's been able to do all kinds of things like have an arrow through his head kind of comedy, a wild and crazy guy kind of comedy. At the same time, he's a high-level art collector and novelist and other things.
He's a very sophisticated guy.
He's a sophisticated guy, and this is a sophisticated comedy.
How interesting. So, Jeremy, getting your arms around playing Albert Einstein.
He's an interesting character. Yeah, Steve Martin, he is a very intelligent writer. His comedy there's a lot of great moments in the play of very straightforward, pratfall style comedy, but at the same time, he has done a lot of research on Einstein. He's done a lot of research on Picasso. He knows their science, he knows their art form. And so there's a lot of great comedy woven in there that has to do with them. Folks who know who Picasso is, who know his work, anything from just a passing knowledge of who he was as an artist, down to the depths of his biography, the details of who he was as an artist. There's just jokes and comedy and tidbits woven all throughout there that people will be able to enjoy. And it's the same thing for Einstein. And I really enjoyed kind of getting into that and finding the things that Steve Martin has kind of teased into the script there about Einstein, and ways that the characters interact to kind of explore those intricacies of their personalities. And at the end of the day, they're sort of caricatures of Einstein and Picasso. This isn't really how they would have been in real life. But if you were to kind of take the essences of who they were as people, as a scientist, as an artist, and some of their ideals, and kind of mash them together in this sort of really great, crazy, imaginary meeting, Steve Martin just does some really great things with that in his script.
What was their friendship like?
In real life?
No, in the play.
Oh, in the play. I wouldn't characterize it initially as a friendship. Initially, they kind of come from seeing the world in two different ways. At this point, Einstein has discovered a relativity, but he hasn't published it yet. So nobody knows who he is.
These guys are almost famous, right?
Right, yeah, they're on the cusp of it.
Yeah.
And but they both see the world in very different ways. Einstein coming from a perspective of looking at the world from a scientific point of view, Picasso coming from looking at it from an artistic point of view. And so initially they don't mesh very well because they're both geniuses, but they don't see the world the same way. But by the end of the play, they've had some opportunities through a lot of the really amazing other characters that are hanging out in the bar to kind of come together and realize that they don't have as much, there's not as much difference between them as they may have thought in how genius sees the world.
Has anyone ever told you that you do really resemble Einstein quite a lot? Is that why he was cast?
It's not too
Obviously, he's a great actor,
The
but
mustache helps.
Yeah, facial hair is kind of what sells it. And there's a line too in the play about Einstein complaining a little bit that he's the kind of person who will always look 86. And when you kind of look at photos throughout history of Einstein,
Yeah,
he's
he
got that kind
always
of old weathered look to him, and maybe I kind of have got a little bit of that going for me too.
And there's a great moment where they look at him and they say, you don't look like you ought to be Einstein. And then he does a thing with his hair, and they say, oh, okay, now we've got it. You know.
Now, are these two men, how big are the egos?
yeah, right.
Very big indeed. And that's great. They actually have a duel at one point with pencils. Yeah, because he's writing, Picasso's sketching, and he's writing formula. And turns out to be a kind of duel. So yeah, big egos for young people who are discovering what the play wants to tell you is the 20th century. It's all about the 20th century and what it's going to be, and these are two of the main things in modernist art and modern science.
Fantastic. Okay, details on the production. What time, where, when are we opening?
At the New Vortex Theater, 2900 Carlisle, north of Manal on Carlisle. This weekend, next, and the following, in other words, the 3 next weekends. This weekend is essentially sold out. If people want tickets, I would urge them to look to the next 2 weekends. And the website is vortexabq.org, and you can buy tickets online. That's the easiest way. Phone reservations at the Vortex number, which is 247-8600. Come see. It's the new theater itself is something to look at, and the show is already a hit.
Look at that. Nice problem to have. Gosh, you're sold out already.
I know. It's the problem everybody loves. In
Yes.
theater.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, we love our theater here in New Mexico, in Albuquerque in particular. And there's just such a surge for that art form.
There is a
And
lot of
it's
it.
great.
Yep. And when you compare it to many other cities that are bigger than this, we have more of it. So lots of choices,
Yes.
from musicals to Hispanic theater to modern comedy like this, and lots of very contemporary work as well.
Well, congratulations. I just can't wait to see this play. I'm really
hope you enjoy
curious about how they're going to intertwine these. And then the appearance by the Elvis young fellow that you mentioned, that sounds really interesting too.
It's the moment where everybody goes, oh my God.
What? What just happened?
That's right. Can't get weirder than this.
Oh, this is terrific.
We love weird in Albuquerque.
Whenever possible.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks for coming down today and being on the show.
My pleasure.
Congrats on this successful play so far.
Thanks.
This is terrific. Jeremy Gwin, who plays Einstein in the production, and David Jones, always good to see you. You can come back anytime. I love talking to you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, the Morning Brew, that's segment's brought to you by our friends at the Albuquerque Theater Guild, abqtheater.org is the website. See what's on stage this weekend. Okay, back in a moment with more on the Morning Brew after this.